Good evening, and welcome to the 2026 Monell Center Leadership Dinner. We are deeply grateful for your presence here tonight, for your partnership, and for your ongoing support of Monell's mission. We're really excited to share what we've been working on since we last gathered, and even more excited about where the center is going. But before we begin, I'd like to reflect just a little bit for a moment on how far both Monell and the field of chemosensory science has come over the past 3 decades since I joined the center. I did my doctorate at NYU, and I knew of Monell through a summer program I was working on, and I was very excited to be accepted as a postdoc here. And so when I first told people on my thesis committee where I was taking a postdoctoral appointment, the reactions were, I would say, memorable. One of these said, "Wow, I didn't know you wanted to go work for a chemical company." And another, who clearly misunderstood the name of Monell, said, "Okay, that sounds interesting, but exactly what aspects of chemicals are you going to count?" Now, to be fair, when I got to Monell, I realized I should have paid a lot more attention in chemistry classes as an undergraduate. But those conversations actually reflected something very real, and that was, at the time, the chemical senses, taste, smell, chemesthesis, and interoception, were still underappreciated in both science and medicine. And that has changed dramatically over the last 3 decades. And your presence here tonight, every one of you, is a testament to the growing recognition that these sensory systems are fundamental to human health, behavior, memory, nutrition, resilience, and quality of life. You're here because you all understand that this science matters, not only for ourselves, but for our children, our grandchildren, and for the generations to come. Tonight, you're going to hear about several major new initiatives that are going to expand Monell's reach and impact, and including exciting opportunities to train the next generation of chemosensory scientists. But what excites me the most is that you're also hear directly from 3 of our scientists, and they're going to give you a glimpse behind the curtain of discovery, sharing not only the questions that they ask, but why the questions matter. You'll hear about research exploring how olfactory memories are formed and what that might mean for aging and neurodegenerative disease. You'll learn how the taste system shapes both digestion and metabolism. And you'll see how science that's conducted in some of the Earth's most extreme environments can lead to therapies that improve human resilience to injury and disease. As Diane Ackerman beautifully said, our senses are our point of contact with the world. And at Monell, we are proud to advance the science that helps us better understand these connections. And we're really grateful tonight to have partners like you that help to make that work possible. And with that, it's now my pleasure to turn the program over to the Monell Board of Directors Chairman, David McNair. David.
Well, good evening, and thank you, Pam, so eloquently describing why many of us are here and why many of us have been involved with Monell for many years. But first of all, it's my pleasure on behalf of the Board of Directors to welcome everybody tonight on a very special evening. Today, we're celebrating kind of the annual celebration of Monell and our achievements, and most importantly, all of those that make those achievements possible. It takes an enormous effort, as many of you know, to do what Monell does. The scientists, the support, the philanthropists, the grant writing, all of the things that are required to make Monell such a special place. And I just want to acknowledge and thank everyone that's involved. It is particularly important that we recognize many of you in this room who support Monell and through the philanthropy and the grants that enable Monell, along with many others that are not here and are around the world, to allow the science that Pam so, as I said, eloquently described to occur. And it is critical that it occurs. We live in a time where, I think for the first time that I can remember, much of what academia does, particularly in the sciences, is in question, and whether or not it adds value, at least in some people's minds. And that would be a travesty if that continued, and hopefully it won't. But it shows just how important the advances in science not only have been, but will be in the quality of life, how we live, and importantly, how we deal with the world around us and perceive it. It is challenging, but as you're going to hear from Ben, we've had a great year in Monell, and you'll hear about some of those achievements, both scientifically and for the recognition that some of our scientists have received. And it gives great pleasure to know that the work is being recognized more broadly, but we have a lot to do to increase the impact that our work has by being able to communicate more effectively about who we are, what do we do, and some of the benefits that you've heard Pam describe. Because one of the things that I've always thought is Monell is one of the best kept secrets. And in the world that we live in today, we have to change that because it doesn't do us as much good as being top of mind for many people who would support the science if they knew more about it. And I think over the next 12 months, you're going to hear a lot more about what we're doing to change that and to increase the impact of our science. Because I was reflecting on it, as Gary knows, I first got introduced to Monell about 35 years ago when I joined Campbell Soup. By training, I'm a biochemist, and my entire career was in the food industry, both in terms of human and pet. And I was thinking, when I first became involved, naturally, there was a certain professional element about trying to understand more about what people tasted, why, the mechanism of it, from an industrial perspective. But gradually, as time went on, it asked a lot more questions around satiety, why we select certain foods, how does it lead or not lead to the predisposition to obesity, why are we drawn to certain foods, and how is it that some people find it challenging to manage intake where others don't seem to. And as that has evolved over the years, and I became much more interested and involved in emerging science in the area, and particularly the microbiome, which covers, as we all know, the storefront, the discovery of the mechanisms and the receptor systems throughout our body, and the questions it raises, and the chemical senses suddenly become one with neuroscience, and very much answering some of the critical questions about how not we just perceive the outside world, but how does the rest of our body perceives what it takes in and how it uses that to control our metabolism and ultimately our well-being. And it's just continued to fascinate me. And it's a great honor and a pleasure for me to be associated with Monell. It's a bit off-putting to think of how many years, but and I think tonight just reminds us of how important the work that Monell does is, and how important the support that many in this room and others that are not here are in providing the support to allow this science to occur. And as I finish and turn over to Ben, where he will give you more sense of, I think, some of the great achievements. I just want to say the next 12 months, I think, is going to be even more exciting, if that's possible. Challenging, yes, but I think there's some amazing plans and opportunities that are coming our way. And at the end of the day, that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we support Monell. Thank you.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for being here. It's always great to follow speakers like Pam and David, who express so well why we're here and the importance of what we do. And so I'm really pleased to be here tonight. It's a pleasure to be spending this evening with all of you, our supporters and friends of Monell. And for us, these meetings matter, not only because, as David said, they give us a chance to update you on some of the wonderful achievements we've done over the past year and some of the directions and things we're taking, but they allow us the chance to connect the science to the people who matter, all of you who help bring our science to reality, bring what we do out to the world, and come together to talk about the impact that we're sharing and building together. So I'm really pleased and I'm really thankful that all of you are here tonight, and also thanks to, as David said, to those who haven't been able to make it tonight. But I do have to say, and as David has said, this past year has been an exceptional year for Monell, a very impactful year for Monell. Across the board, we are seeing momentum in the science we are advancing, and importantly, we're seeing momentum and success in the people we are developing, and in the community we are building around our work. And that's really, really important for us to move further, move faster, and make advancements in chemosensory science. And a big part of that momentum in the last year has really come from a deliberate effort to engage more deeply and more broadly with our community in events like this and others. And so over the past year, we've worked at looking at how we can expand and connect with our different partners from industry, our supporters here in the room today, but also the wider scientific and public communities, both here in Philadelphia, nationally and also internationally. And so one achievement that I would really like to tip my hat on and thank the Monell staff and everyone who got behind this, was that we hosted and participated in the major gathering here in Philadelphia at the end of last year, the Pangborn Sensory Science Symposium. And this is an internationally renowned meeting that brings together sensory scientists from all across the country and all across the globe. But what was great about that meeting is that at Monell we hosted a gathering, a network gathering of people at the centre interested in sensory science. And it was a historic moment for Monell because we had over 300 people come to the centre to learn about what we were doing, share and network. But importantly, of those 300 people, many of those people that came, many of those people that enjoyed, and I'll be honest, we had a little bit of fun as well, all of these people that came, a good proportion of them, over 80% of them had some connection with Monell in the past or had passed through Monell as a postdoc, as a visiting scientist, as a collaborator. And so here, coming to this one event, 300 people that Monell had touched. So that's an achievement. That really showed the impact to me. And it was a historical event for the centre. I think the largest number of people that we've had in the building. So thanks to Mike and the facilities team, and I was really glad that we had the renovated basement to be able to fit everyone. So these sorts of events, they're not just events, they're they're warm welcomes that bring people together. And it's one of the focuses that we are putting a lot of attention onto, to seeing how we can connect our science more broadly and, as David said, make people aware about our science. And so other new initiatives that we've launched the celebration of science, and I will do a blatant shout out to this year's celebration of science. I'm sure some of you have already picked this up and looked at it, but please mark your calendars for November, because we're looking forward to come together and talk more about sensory science in November. But we've also started some interesting initiatives, such as the Monell Alumni Association, targeting connections with Monellians across the globe, across the country, and trying to build and push the Monellian spirit at meetings and working across the city. And so we're really fortunate to have touched the lives of many sensory scientists, and we're really fortunate to be able to link in with them and keep pushing our science forward. So one of the things that you will see in tonight when we talk about it on the rolling slide deck is that when we talk about the success of Monell, we talk about the achievements that we've done, we're talking about all of the hard work that everyone in this room has done. And so when you look at the rolling slides, or if you've had a chance to gaze up and look at the rolling slide decks that have been playing through the evening, what you'll notice is that we've very intentionally made sure that these aren't just slides of Monellians, but they're slides of all of us here, because all of you matter. Our partners, our supporters, our community. The work that we do doesn't happen in isolation. So now I'd like to turn a little bit to the broader momentum that we've been seeing, and some truly exciting scientific milestone. One of the most significant milestones that the Centre has seen in a number of years is that most recently, and I have to give a shout out to Danny Reid, our Chief Scientific Officer, for her effort here, is that the Centre was recently awarded a major P50 Centre grant. This is a grant that is bringing approximately $12.5 million over 5 years to the centre, so this is a big deal. So I have to, as I said, give thanks to Danny and the team who pulled this off. But P50 centres, just to let everyone know, are designed to tackle complex, high-impact problems through deeply integrated team science. So what better place than Monell to tackle this sort of science? They bring together multiple projects and shared infrastructure to accelerate discovery and translation. So as an institute, Monell delves into the basic science, we delve into the questions, but we're also very keen to say, how can we take our science and leverage it? How can we actually make an impact and move that science forward to help people, to help our communities, to help the world to be healthier? So in our case, this P50 grant is actually focused in on a question that's very near and dear to our hearts and important, that has become both urgent and deeply human. And that question is why some individuals experience persistent loss or disruption of smell and taste following illness and inflammation, including long COVID and other similar infections. This work brings together human studies, tissue biology, and advanced organoid models, as well as some animal work and genetic work, and expands our collaborations with partners like Northwestern, Ohio State, and Penn. So again, here's a project that is ambitious in its goals, dealing with complex science, but bringing together fields and disciplines, pushing the forefronts of science, delving into new areas like new approach methodology such as organoids. And we're doing it here at Monell. We're tackling these complex problems and moving the needle forward, moving our understanding forward. But I'm not going to steal the thunder. We'll hear more about the science of this work and where it's going to be taking across the next 5 years. But what I do want to point out that's extremely important is that although this is a large NIH, a large federal government grant, the work didn't start with this grant. The work started with the support of our donors, the support of our community around Monell, who allowed us to generate preliminary data by supporting our idea, by supporting our mission, by supporting our scientists and their discoveries, their interests in delving into smell loss. We were able to get a leading edge. We were able to tackle these questions and generate data, generate new models, generate new test systems, as I mentioned, like these organoids, these cells in a dish that can smell. So through your support, we were able to generate the data that convinced the federal government to come behind us and support this P50 grant. So in many ways, donor investment really made this P50 possible. And that's the model that we believe here at Monell. Federal funding scales great science, but your support is what starts it. It creates momentum, it allows us to move faster, think bigger, and position Monell at the forefront of emerging challenges. And so we're really excited about this. We hope you are, and we're thankful for all of your support in getting us here. If we want to continue doing that, we need to keep building together this foundation and working together to challenge ourselves and to work at the forefront of chemosensory science. At the same time, we're also investing in something just as important, and that's our people. And tonight, I am thrilled to announce a transformative new gift in support of our MSAP, so the Monell Science Apprenticeship Program, one of our core scientific training programs at the centre. And this gift is generously provided by the Monell Foundation in honour of Dr. Charis Eng. And at this point, I'd like to invite up to the podium Dr. Gary Beecham, a member of the Monell Foundation Board, to share a few words on behalf of the Foundation about this generous gift and why it is such a fitting gift in support of our MSAP program because of who it honours. So Gary, could you please come up to the podium and tell us a little bit about the importance of this gift in honouring the legacy of Dr. Eng and also helping support our MSAP program.
So I really appreciate Ben asking me to do this because this was something that's very, very dear to my heart. There you see the picture of Cerise. She was a remarkable woman. And I have to give a little background as to why in the world we named this after her. So all of you know that the Monell Center is named after somebody that's right down in front of us, Ambrose Monell. And it was Ambrose and Mauricio that first introduced me to her. She was a person that one of our former directors had identified as somebody who was doing really interesting work at the Cleveland Clinic. And he decided to support her work. And for the for 15 years, we supported her scientific work at the Cleveland Clinic. She was a remarkable woman. She came from Singapore as a girl. and first went to New York with her parents, and then came to Chicago because her father was getting a PhD at the University of Chicago. She proceeded to go to the lab school at Chicago, and at the lab school she was obviously excelled, and she entered the University of Chicago at the age of 16 as an undergraduate. Now this is kind of typical of the University of Chicago. She proceeded then to go next to get a PhD and an MD at the University of Chicago in the medical school. And she and I really connected here because that's where I got my PhD. And we tried to find a time, I'm much older than her, but that we might have bumped into each other. But we did have some people in common that we were our teachers. And so that was very special to me. She was trained by, then she left the University of Chicago and was trained at Cambridge University in cancer genetics. And she was really one of the very earliest people doing specifically cancer genetics, particularly in pediatric cases. She then came to the United States, first to Ohio State, and then to the Cleveland Clinic, where she really created their program in cancer genetics. Her major discovery was, to me, has always been remarkable, what was discovery of a particular gene called the P10 gene, which controls and was one of the first genes that were controlling individual cancers. And it controls a lot of rare cancers. And she was establishing this as a field, essentially. The most remarkable thing about this was that the same gene seems to be involved in autism, and how that could be. How could cancer-causing genes be involved in autism? This was her love and her what she really, really, really wanted to understand. So she played many other important roles at the Cleveland Clinic. She ran the cancer program there. She received many awards, and she was particularly interested in training. And she trained many, many scientists and kept up with them, talked to them. And one of the most important things about how we discovered her, or I discovered her, I think, is that at the foundation, one of the things we do is we invite people who we give money to. I'm speaking from the foundation now, not the Monell Center. We give money to, because Monell Center doesn't give money to anybody except. But one of the things we do is we have people that we like to talk to who are our donees for lunch. And I have to say, I think we invited her to lunch more often than anybody else, because she was just a delight. And she was so enthusiastic about her work, enthusiastic about her science, enthusiastic about her people that she worked with. And she also, I don't know where it came from, I think maybe her father, who was very, very interested in wine, she was an expert in wine. And at these lunches, which were quite elegant, most of us, or none of us, consumed alcoholic beverages because we were busy. You're not supposed to do that anymore. She did every time. And I really admired her for that. Anyway, to our dismay, really great dismay, she died about 2 years ago at age 62. That's way too young. And I was particularly sad because I think she was really on the edge of making the connection between this cancer and autism. And obviously, a whole business about autism is so controversial. But this was somebody that really knew what she was doing, and it was a great loss. And it was a great loss, I think, to those of us, Ambrose and Mauricio, and later Maya, that we no longer had her as somebody that we could be proud of and be happy about her successes. So the Monell Foundation is a medium-sized family foundation that makes, I think, is terrifically supportive of science. It supports other things as well, but science is the most important thing. And we supported here for these 15 years. 2 years after she died, Mauricio, sitting down there, apparently was visited by a lawyer, and the lawyer said, I have a surprise for you. Cheris has left Monell Foundation $1.3 million. And it was kind of dumbfounding because Monell Foundation gives money, but they don't take it in. At least they haven't much. And so the question was what to do with this gift. And it was Mauricio and Ambrose who made the suggestion that because of her training interests, because of her wonderful support of students, and because of where it fit in so well with her history and her love of science and her love of teaching, why not support our student program that we've been doing for many years with some difficulty in raising funds. And so this was made the decision. I as a Monell actual Monell employee am not allowed to vote on any of this, but I certainly supported it. It was agreed that we would use this money as an endowment for the summer program. Now, most of you probably know what that's about, but basically, beginning more than 30 years ago, we established a program that was, I think, almost unique at the time, as far as I know, of training young high school and some beginning college students during summers in science. And the great thing about that program was that the students came and they worked with individual faculty members. They actually had to actually be there 7 hours a day because they got paid. And that's quite unusual for that kind of program. They then would do a project with the PIs that they worked with, and then have poster sessions where they could bring their parents and whatever. And this thing was created really by my colleague here, who I'm so proud of, Julie Monell. Julie started it. I can't even remember whether it was before she finished her postdoc or afterwards. We could ask her. But she created it and she designed it, and it has been a remarkable success. It's continued on. Paul Breslin, Joel Mainland, and Tiffany Hyatt are doing it now and doing a very good job of continuing it. But I really want to shout out to Julie because she was the one that had the vision and the creativeness to do this. This is not enough money to keep to really fund the program, but it gives a sort of fundamental longevity to it because it will generate, 1.3 million generates about $55,000 a year. That'll take care of 4 or 5 students. We usually have 10 or 12 or 15. So those of you who are helping to support this, you still got to keep doing it. You can't give up yet. But I am just so happy about this because I can think of Cheris, and obviously we can't tell her this, but from my knowledge of her and from my really deep love of her, I think she would be so happy this is what her money is going to. So thank you.
Thank you, Gary, and also a huge and special thanks once again to the Monell Foundation. It really is a privilege to be able to, for the centre to be able to continue on the legacy of Dr. Eng. And as Gary pointed out, we also want to highlight that this legacy builds on the support of other MSAP donors and committed partners like Joe and Andrew Brand, James Albrecht, Rick Berkman and Tony Siddell, and so many others who keep this program alive, running well, providing scientific opportunities to young Philadelphians, young Pennsylvanians, and also students from across the country. So thank you very much to all of you for the support of this program, and we look forward to next year's cohort actually starting very soon and hearing about the exciting science that they're going to be working on. In addition to supporting our people, I think, yep, I've got the next slide right. We're also continuing to strengthen the partnerships that connect our science to real-world application. And for those of you who were with us last year and have been keeping up with some of our announcements, we announced the inaugural Mannheimer Scholarship. And I'm really excited and pleased to be able to announce this year that we're moving forward with the first cohort under that scholarship. And so I have to send a huge thanks to Kerry for their support of this program. Another wonderful training program for Monell, this time focused more on graduate students and post-bac, giving them the opportunity to come to Monell, work with some of our scientists and get experience and training at the centre. So we're very thankful for Kerry and also Steve for this gift. But as I said, we're getting into the full swing, and I'm very, very happy to announce the first cohort of Mannheimer scholars, Yixing Jia and Aurora Anderson. And I don't know if Yixing and Aurora are here, but if they can stand up and maybe give a wave. So we're really excited to see where their science takes them and takes ideas at Monell, and hopefully we'll hear from some of it. But just to give you a brief feeling of what they're working on, Yixing's project is going to investigate how saliva minerals influence the lingering aftertaste of sugar alternatives, with the goal of improving the flavour and consumer acceptance of reduced sugar foods. So that's something that's extremely important today with the obesity crisis that we have. And Aurora's project is taking Monell further into the world of data science and computational science, and really an area that I think Monell has a lot of possibility to drive forward through projects like this and work of our faculty like Joel Mainland and others. But her project is looking at combining computational modelling and sensory testing, so two things that we're very good at, to identify primary odours or aromas that can recreate complex food flavours more efficiently and with higher precision and predictability. So congratulations again to both of you, and we look forward to hearing about your achievements as this work moves forward. So, Okay, so as I close, I do want to come back a little bit to where I started, that this has been a year of a lot of momentum for Monell. We've had a lot of exciting things happening, but it's going to be a busy year. We've got a lot more exciting things happening. We've got our board meeting tomorrow, where we're going to be talking about a number of great initiatives for the centre, and I hope that we'll be able to be sharing about those initiatives with you all soon. But what's important to us moving forward and moving our science forward is our connection to our partners, our connection to our community, and the connection between the science we do and the impact we want to have in this world. And so that brings me to one final piece of exciting news that I'd like to share about one of our new faculty members, someone who you'll be hearing about tonight and his wonderful science. But I'd like to have you all join me in congratulating one of our new faculty members, Dr. Neeraj Lal, who has just been named a Cell Scholar. So Neeraj, maybe you can stand up as well. So just to let you know, this is a mean feat. It's not an easy thing to be named a Cell Scholar, and we're really, really proud of Neeraj and his achievements. It's a highly prestigious and competitive award recognising, and this comes from their description, exceptional early career scientists. So Neeraj was selected from more than 200 nominees nationwide, so it's a tremendous achievement, and as I said, a proud moment for Monell. It speaks not only to the originality and impact of his work, but also to the strength of the environment we are building here at Monell with Neeraj and other faculty members, and one that attracts and supports outstanding scientific talent. So on that note, I'm going to close. Thank you all again for being here. Thank you all for your partnership and making our journey possible. And I'm going to invite Danny Reed up, I believe, to, or I'm not sure, I'm messing up potentially Rachel's program. I'm not sure if Pam's going to get up first or Danny, but to come up to the podium to kick off tonight's main event, where you'll actually be hearing from Neeraj. But before I let Danny take the mic, let me just say thank you to you all, and a huge thanks to the Monell staff for putting on this event tonight, for the hard work over the last year, for the hard work that we're going to be doing over the next year, and for making Monell such a wonderful place to be and pushing our science forward. So thank you to everyone.
So everyone, I am little kid excited to offer these three scientists who are going to speak to you today. One of the complaints we sometimes hear about scientists is we're inclined to go into our labs and close our doors and not necessarily talk to one another. And one of the things that I'm the most proud of is in developing and crafting the presentation for you tonight, that they really took the individual strands of their own research programs and they wove them together into a really special cloth. Neeraj, we've already heard a little bit about his recent accomplishment. I'm happy to also introduce you to Kevin Boulding, who studies how the brain processes olfactory information, particularly with regards to aging and memory. And of course, Junyoung Lim, who is one of our more senior scientists and who studies how the body, how taste, when we put it in our mouth, how our body responds to it. So there's some exciting surprises that await you. I think that we're going to go ahead and get started. So why don't you go ahead, Neeraj?
We're going to start off with, can you hear us? Yeah. We're going to start off with our memories and a deep dive into it. This heart within me, I can feel, and I judge that it exists. This world around me, I can touch, and I likewise judge that it exists. There ends my knowledge, everything else is construction. If I try to seize the self of which I feel so sure about, if I try to summarize it and define it, it's nothing but water flowing through my fingers. That was Albert Camus in his 1942 book, Myth of Sisyphus. He and his contemporary, Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir, and their predecessor, Arthur Schopenhauer, thought deeply about perception of reality, a space where material reality meets the consciousness. They repeatedly come to the conclusion that it's a futile attempt, because at any given moment, we have access to a very thin slice of reality, because we have access to a very limited number of sensory modalities. But they were appreciative of the fact that these sensory modalities is all we have to access reality. These sensory modalities shape our experiences. The profoundness of these experiences shape what memories get formed. Those memories crystallize into our personalities, and individual personalities lay the bedrock for forming higher order human connection from societies, cultures, and civilizations. Later part of the 18th century, biologist Jacob van Uxkell also was thinking about similar philosophical questions, but he took a biological approach to it and summarized or innovated a concept called Umwelt. It's a German for environment, but the way he defined it as we all are limited with, or we are all experiencing reality with our sensory bubbles. I love the example of a tick. It has access to only very few sensory modalities. It can differentiate the texture of our hair. It can feel the warmth of the blood, and it can smell only one smell, butyric acid. That's all. It's oblivious to everything going around it. It cannot appreciate a bird singing around. It cannot appreciate the sound or smell of a raindrop hitting the forest floor. That's it. And so are we. We are limited with our sensory modalities, and that's how we access our realities. But this pursuit of understanding sensory modalities, it's not only from an academic pursuit of understanding reality or abstractness. It also has practical ramification. I think one of the biggest blockbuster drug of our generation was discovered in understanding the sensory modalities of some of these animals and understand what those boundaries are. And it's no surprise that FDA approval of that drug correlate with the first biotech company or pharmaceutical company to hit a $1 trillion market cap. In my lab, we are very interested in understanding sensory modalities of animals and enrichment of evolutionary biology, which has led to evolution of these sensory modalities. In my lab in particular, we study hibernating animals from the furthest corner of this planet. In Arctic, these hibernating animals have some of the most extreme physiological adaptation. We know very little about how they achieve what they do, and we hope that studying them would take us to finding novel cures for some of the most challenging human diseases of our time. I just wish I could take all of you to one of our field trip to the Arctic or take you to our lab for a tour. I can't physically take you there right now, but due to advancement in technologies, I could probably take you on a virtual tour. I said technologies. Okay, this is from our last trip to Arctic, where we go and study not only animals in their wild environment, but bring them back to the lab to study the physiological adaptation. In this case, hibernating Arctic ground squirrel, which has some of the most extreme physiological adaptation, surviving below 0 degree body temperature. We're developing cutting-edge circuit neuroscience tools in the lab which will allow us, we hope it will allow us and give a peek into how they're achieving these physiological qualities. But I think the strongest part of the research program which I'm building is not only studying these extraordinary animals, but studying side by side preclinical model of diseases. For example, we are focused on understanding metabolic diseases like obesity, diabetes, hypertension, sarcopenia, using mouse models so we can easily translate the findings, what we find with these discoveries. We're also interested in studying neurodegenerative diseases in the lab using mouse model and human-derived stem cell model. And we hope some of the findings from these animals in the Arctic would lead us to novel discoveries in there. Oops. Oh, no, hold on. This. Okay. Okay. So here is one new piece of data. I've been only here for 6 months, but we just got this data last week. These are two different mouse. One has a mutation from a Swedish family, which has early onset of Alzheimer's disease. These are tissue cleared and imaged using volumetric imaging using light sheet microscopy. I haven't had the chance to interpret the data, but I hope you will be able to help me interpret this data. One of these mice has Alzheimer's, and they have plaques which are similar to what develop in human patients. And teal color is the plaque, and pink color is the immune cells that surround those things. And these are the preclinical models of it. I haven't been able to analyze the data. I know a lot of smart people are coming here and you'll help me analyze this data and interpret which. So one animal is on the top and the other animal is in the bottom. I think in a minute you'll see a hologram of these two data sets, and you could tell me which animal has Alzheimer's here and which doesn't. Any guesses? Yes, thank you. Okay, so that's not the only thing what we're doing at Monell. There are amazing science going on about other modalities, and Kevin is going to talk about his foray into olfaction. Oops. If I stop this. We're not there completely with the technology.
Roman hedges and walkways, graffiti-laden precincts graced with pallid fireworks, so even the most tumbled-down niches seem breeze-swept, festive now with fragrance. So here we are talking about how our chemical senses shape our internal lives and our shared cultural bonds. And aging naturally enters into that conversation. And it's not a coincidence that Neeraj and I have a shared interest in how neurons are affected by aging and disease. Smell often changes as we age, and aging is the greatest known risk factor for neurodegenerative diseases such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Neuroscience labs now have new tools in hand that allow us to measure the activity of thousands of neurons and thousands of genes and the computations that connect them. And there's a sense that we're in a real moment of possibility to deeply understand how aging affects the brain and perhaps be able to correct it. Now, our research institution has a long legacy of studying olfaction, our sense of smell. Olfaction is closely tied to aging because our sense of smell often deteriorates as we age. We can become less sensitive and have trouble detecting odor molecules. We can also find it more difficult to tell different odors apart. Some of that decline may begin in the nose, where the odorant receptors reside. But to be able to identify specific odors, we think that that type of operation is more likely to occur in neural circuits deep in the brain. That's why my lab is focused on what happens with central olfactory processing. In aged animals, we see that some parts of these circuits go a bit haywire. They become too active, and they have trouble telling different odors apart. Right now, we're trying to learn what types of neurons are affected in this process and how fundamental processes of cellular aging may be driving these changes. We're also interested in understanding whether this dysfunction is general to all different odorants or whether highly overlapping odor mixtures that are more difficult to discriminate may be particularly strongly affected. This points to a broader issue in our field. We've learned a lot about olfaction using simple stimuli, single odor molecules one at a time. But odors in the real world are rarely like that. They're more often complex mixtures with variable composition. If we want to understand smell as it's actually lived, we have to move closer to that richness. A nice example is the smell of jasmine. Jasmine flowers and jasmine tea are both valued for their odor quality. In the literature, you can find such a thing as the jasmine tea flavor index, which can be optimized by combining molecules like linalool, indole, and methylantranolate. None of those individual molecules will smell exactly like jasmine on its own. To produce the scent that we would recognize as the scent of jasmine, we need to combine those molecules along with many others. So we decided to use literary references and poems as a path to the more human side of chemical senses. So now I'll read you a poem called Jasmine by Cyrus Cassels. These are the days of jasmine in Rome, when headlong emboldened April has dissolved, and the joyous braiding of sun and rain brings the sweet, steady broadcast. When I step from the suppertime train, that's what greets me. Roman hedges and walkways, graffiti-laden precincts graced with pallid fireworks, so even the most tumble-down niches seem breeze-swept, festive now with fragrance. Jasmine, the elating moment's shibboleth, the cool, enrapturing night's cavalry. Even crone glorious Daria, my terrace-loving neighbor, confides. When Galliano came back from the front, his right hand was bandaged, but in his uninjured one, poet, he held a fistful of jasmine he'd picked along the path to my door. How could I not become his wife? What this poem captures beautifully is the immediacy of smell, but also its specificity. A scent doesn't just wash over us as something vague. It carries fine distinctions between places, moments, and memories. That precision is part of what makes olfaction so interesting to study. Think about lemon and lime. They're clearly different, but they overlap. Each is a complex mixture, but with shared chemical features. To tell them apart means separating overlapping mixtures with distinct percepts. That kind of distinction could possibly carry more information than the type of coarse smell testing that we rely on now. And there's a possibility that mixture testing could offer an improved diagnostic probe, especially for the central computations that are disrupted with aging. Others in the field, including Joel Mainland, are asking how odor molecules and mixtures map onto perception. And my lab approaches the same problem from the neural side. How are odor mixtures shaping activity in the olfactory brain? This is part of what makes olfaction compelling. It lets us connect molecules to brain activity to perception, and perception to the lived texture of memory and experience. And in the context of aging, it may give us a sensitive window into how neural systems begin to change. Now, Gian, then we'll continue the story.
Bitter greens, sour citrus, sweet berries, each tells the body what it needs. The tongue reads the world, translating flavors into life and teaching the heart to trust the senses. I love this poem. I love this poem because it so well captures something that science is now discovering. Most of us think of taste as pleasure, a reward of eating something good. But it is more than that. It is a signal to our body. Sweetness tells our body that sugar is coming. Sourness primes our stomach that acid is coming. The deep savoriness of umami says protein is coming. Our taste buds are the body's first line of communication, reading the food that we eat, telling our digestive system how to prepare. before even you start swallowing. Let me bring this life with two short stories from my lab. First, saliva. Think about food, starchy food that you like. For me, it is a warm bread, loaf of bread, straight out of the oven. For my husband, it is double-baked potatoes. He's from Midwest. Those food are made of thousands and thousands of glucose molecules, all connected together, make long chains. Far too big for our body to absorb as it is. But the moment you take a bite and chew, your saliva is get to work. Saliva isn't just water. It contains enzymes, among others. One key enzyme called salivary alpha amylase starts breaking them down right in your mouth. Digestion doesn't start in the stomach. It begins with the very first bite. Understanding how this process influences metabolism and health is critical. And that is one of the frontiers that we work at Monell. Second story, anticipation. The moment you taste something sweet, your brain signals to your body, actually pancreas, to release insulin. Not only after your body digests food, not only after sugar gets into the bloodstream. Rather, the instant you taste it, the brain sends a signal. Your body is anticipating, preparing, keeping your metabolism smooth before sugars have been absorbed. Now let's think of a moment. What happened? You taste something sweet and no sugar is coming. What happened after years of diet drinking and diet products? Does the body eventually stop listening to the signal? How do the tongue and the brain and our organs actually talk to each other? These questions are at the heart of our research at Monell right now. Every bite you take is a conversation between your food and your body, between flavor and health, and between what you taste and how you live. At Monell, we are uncovering how that conversation works. And what we discover will change how we think about food, health, and even the trust in our own body. Thank you.
Thank you to our scientists very much. So now it is your turn if you have any questions for our scientists. So please don't be shy. Let's see if anybody has something that they want to ask. One of the things I was really struck with is hearing them speak and to tell their story was the sort of idea of memory, particularly memories that we had as early parts of our life. And so my question to Kevin is, do you think that the memories that we form in childhood that are related to the sense of smell have some sort of increased potency as we get older? I mean, what do you really think about the effect of these memories formed when you were young now that we're older?
Testing. So I don't have a scientific expert answer to that question because I don't think we have the data or the type of experiments to really get an answer to that. But I can tell you that while learning about these phenomena and talking to people anecdotally, it's clear that, and I think there probably is literature on this, that it's clear that people do focus on these early childhood memories when they talk about the rich, vivid memory recall that they experienced with some specific odor memory. So I think they are potent, and I think they're probably potent because they're embedded when you're young. Mm-hmm. I don't know that they grow in potency with age, but maybe other things fall away. Maybe that's.
Thank you, Kevin. So my other question is probably what's on your mind too. So Neeraj, how did you do it with the hologram?
Did what?
Your final demonstration.
It didn't come out that well, but yeah, like, the brains. Yeah, so we just got these data almost over the weekend. Yeah, this was a long pursuit to be able to see volumetrically where these plaques start forming and how do they grow about it. And it just technologies that have been developed in past like 5-7 years that allow us to take this quantitative way of looking at these plaque formation. Yeah, I think right now is the prime time to actually solve some of these cutting edge or like some of the most difficult neurological problems. Yeah.
Thank you. So my question, Michelle. No. Here, let me run down to you with the mic.
I can probably speak pretty loudly.
Yeah, but let's everybody.
I thought it was great that both Juyun and Kevin brought up some poetry and talked about the inspiration of the language of the poetry. And I heard Kevin, when he first brought it up, was saying that it was sort of guiding you a little bit on understanding the perception maybe that people experience, like the real lived experience versus what you're getting maybe from the neural level. So I was wondering if you could talk a little about why language and poetry might be so informative when thinking about the human experience in olfaction or taste. I know, it's large, but you brought it up.
Well, so I know only a little about this. From my perspective, the reason why I would look at a poem to think about how odors are experienced is maybe because of the descriptive words that go with it and like the challenge of putting the sort of abstract experience of odor perception into words. That's a pretty fascinating piece of the puzzle here. Now that's been formalized in scientific measurement. We can get people to tell us specifically what they think an odor, the profile of an odor. The one other sort of connection I can make with that concept is that my understanding is that when you're trying to train people to remember odors, like to tell you whether they've ever experienced them before, just a simple odor memory test, is this familiar, is this novel? My understanding is that when people have the ability to name the odor, that enhances their ability to remember it. So I think there's a point at which the sort of abstract odor perception gets connected to a thing in the world that greatly enhances its durability in terms of memory.
So thank you. I want to just to wrap up here and to say a particular thank you to our scientists. It takes some bravery for our scientists. They're used to sharing their heads and the work of their hands, but you got a little bit of their heart tonight in their poetry and their art. So I'd like to just hear a round of applause for them and thank them very much. And I now turn you over to the very confident hands of Pam Dalton, who's going to wrap up the evening for us. Pam?
Well, I hope you enjoy that as much as I did. I was really looking forward to that. I had seen a preview of the video, and I was really excited about it. But, even after all the years I've spent in this wonderful institution, it's still inspiring to be reminded tonight of how deeply the chemical senses touch every aspect of our daily lives and how much potential this science holds to improve health and quality of life across the lifespan. In fact, if I had one wish, and Danny, I will have that dream talk with you, but it would be that one day soon we can fully understand how to preserve sensory function as we age. I mean, the fundamental science being done at Monell is helping point us toward these answers, and that possibility to me is incredibly exciting. We're also deeply, deeply fortunate to have the unwavering support of everyone in this room and the remarkable community that's represented here tonight. You all are really an essential part of the Monell family, and we simply could not pursue what we hope to accomplish without your partnership, your enthusiasm, and your belief in the mission. We look forward to many more opportunities to share our discoveries and our visions with you in the future. But I want to point out, please stay involved. We have several exciting programs and events planned in the coming months, including, as you can see at your table, our second Celebration of Science on November 10th. Our featured guest will be Dr. Justin Gregg. He's a researcher in dolphin communication. He's an acclaimed science writer and a wonderfully engaging speaker. We hope many of you will join us again. Before we close, I'd like to thank our scientists for giving us such a fascinating glimpse into their work, and most importantly, the passion that drives their discoveries. I want to thank all of you also for spending this evening with us, for your generosity and your continued commitment to Monell's future. Please stay, enjoy dessert and coffee in the back, and continue the conversation. We would love to have the opportunity to mingle and connect with you further. And so thank you again for being here tonight. Travel safely, and good night.